Hi, welcome to Swin at Dusk, perfect for cozy nights, quiet moments, or when your heart needs a little warmth. I am Brittany, and I hope you'll love tonight's story. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts right after.
The lighthouse stood alone on the northern cliffs, its beams sweeping across the jagged coastline like a sentinel guarding a forgotten world. The air there always carried the scent of brine and moss, a kind of ancient sorrow that settled in your lungs and refused to leave. For decades, the tower had been silent, its keeper long gone, the light automated, and its story swallowed by the sea mist that rolled in like ghosts at dusk. But then came the letters. Mara discovered them during a 2-week artist's retreat in the old keeper's cottage, nestled below the tower like an afterthought to the sky. She had come in search of silence, of space, of something to shake loose the creative block that had clung to her fingers for months. She had expected nothing but crashing waves, watercolor mornings, and perhaps the comfort of solitude. What she found instead was a life unraveling itself through ink and parchment. The first letter was tucked into an old nautical map, brittle as autumn leaves, stashed in a drawer of the desk in the upstairs bedroom. It began simply, "My dearest Elliot." The ink was faded but legible, each letter written with the kind of careful passion that can only come from longing. It ended in a smear of tears, the final lines barely legible. Something in Mara's chest tightened. By the fourth letter, she was obsessed. Each day brought a new discovery, folded in the binding of an old lighthouse logbook, slid between floorboards creaking with age, even tucked inside the seams of an antique quilt. The voice was always Celeste. Her words painted vivid portraits of secret love, stolen kisses, and whispered promises. During the war, Elliot, a young naval officer stationed at sea, would row ashore under the cloak of moonlight, risking everything to find her waiting beneath the beacon. Their nights were hurried, breathless things, woven with passion and silence and the unspoken understanding that it couldn't last. Elliot was engaged, duty-bound to a family name that bore weight like an anchor, but Celeste, a lighthouse keeper's daughter, loved him with the kind of reckless purity that refuses to be reasoned with. Mara devoured every letter, read them aloud by candlelight with the sound of surf crashing below, her voice catching on the curves of Celeste's heartbreak. The cottage, with its creaking floorboards and salt-stained windows, seemed to listen. The very air grew thick with emotion, as if the walls themselves held memory. In her isolation, Mara began speaking to Celeste, whispering thoughts into the silence as if the woman could somehow hear her across the veil of time. One night, the wind howling outside and firelight flickering against the stone walls, Mara found the final letter. It was hidden beneath a loose stone in the hearth, wrapped in red silk faded to rust. Celeste wrote of a last hope, a final meeting. She had waited beneath the lighthouse, red scarf whipping in the wind, the very one Elliot once said made her look like sunrise. The war was ending, and so, she thought, was their waiting. She believed Elliot would come, that he would choose love over legacy, that he would be brave. He never came. The pain in those words, shattered hope pressed onto paper, made Mara weep. She clutched the letter against her chest and curled by the fire, letting the grief wash over her like waves crashing on cold sand. The scent of ash and ocean clung to her skin. That night, Mara stood beneath the tower, her coat pulled tight against the gale. She watched the automated light turn slow, wide arcs over the sea, and for a moment, just a moment, she thought she saw a figure standing on the rocky shore below. A tall silhouette, face turned toward the tower, unmoving. She didn't wave, didn't call, but she felt him, felt the weight of all the love stories never finished, all the letters never sent, all the kisses stolen and never returned. The next morning, Mara set aside her landscapes and began to paint Celeste, not as a romantic abstraction, but as a woman of flesh and soul, hair tangled by the sea breeze, red scarf caught mid-whip, eyes fixed on the horizon. She painted her again and again, in the light, in the rain, in the ache of waiting. Her hands moved like they were channeling something greater than skill. These weren't just portraits, they were resurrection. They were love songs in oil and pigment, memory manifest on canvas. As the days slipped by, Mara started writing her own letters, not to anyone she knew, but to the ghosts that lived in the beams of the lighthouse. She poured her soul onto pages, her fears, her regrets, the echo of all the years she had silenced herself in the name of responsibility. She left them everywhere, wedged between stones, slipped beneath door frames, pressed into hollow logs. She hoped someone, someday, would find them the way she had found Celeste's. The night before she was to leave, Mara climbed the narrow spiral staircase to the top of the lighthouse. She lit a single candle and placed it in the window beside the great rotating lens. It was a quiet rebellion against the mechanical monotony of the automated light. A human signal, a soul reaching out. She stayed there for hours, listening, breathing, remembering. And when the stars spilled across the sky like scattered pearls, she whispered one last letter into the wind. A goodbye, a thank you, a promise. Somewhere she hoped Celeste heard it. Somewhere, perhaps, Elliot did too. Because some loves aren't lost. They linger. Some stories don't end. They echo. And some letters don't disappear. They wait for someone willing to read them aloud again.
Hope you enjoyed the story and it stimulated your imagination. We have more stories to come and look forward to hearing from you. Please like, subscribe, and leave us a comment.